Well, imagine if all of South Africa's 1 million tons of unrecycled plastic waste could create thousands of jobs, cleaner environment, as well as help build houses, hospitals, schools and roads. A new technology launching soon could actually help turn any plastic into durable cement that can be used in the construction industry. So to tell us more about this, we're joined by eNCA CEO Don Thompson. Don, thanks a lot for joining us this morning. I mean, innovation at its finest. How do we turn unrecycled plastic into cement?
Well, our concern was really the kind of plastic that nobody else wants. There's a lot of plastic, that what we call tragic plastic. It's a plastic that ends up in the rivers and the shorelines and the parks. And it's really too dirty to reprocess or recycle in its typical form. So what we started to do was look into developing a way to encapsulate that inside of cement, where it could be then turned into a useful infrastructure asset or a home with an appreciating value. My company's background is really building social housing in Central America, and after a long career, what we determined was one of the very most important things that you could do for a family, a starting family, is build an affordable house with an appreciating asset. So our goal has always been to look for high quality alternatives for building products. A number of years ago, we got involved in the plastic industry, and really have kept working and working till we could find that right solution. And what we came up with in reality was taking all the commingled plastic, mixing it together with calcium and some other organic additives, extruding it, recrushing it, so it looks exactly like sand, like lava rock. It's indistinguishable, but it's very light, and it adds qualities to the concrete that make it stronger.
Well, is it then durable? In other words, is it sustainable? I mean, we're talking about affordability here, and especially when you look at the South African economic climate, one would say that it's a perfect timing for such an innovative, form of use, especially when it comes to cement. But the sustainability and the durability of the mat in itself?
Without a question, that's the whole idea, is to take a product that would have been recycled, gone into the waste stream, and unfortunately at times goes into the ocean, which is a huge concern for us. And so the sustainability aspect of it is that we're encapsulating it into a product that's going to last for literally decades, hopefully 50 to 80 years. After the fact, if the house or the infrastructure project ever needed to be demolished, it can simply be reused, reground, and reused. So it's a very, very sustainable way, a very good end of life for plastic that typically was not going to be recycled.
I mean, obviously, Don, we're talking about, plastic waste that ends up in our rivers and oceans, and we've seen like horrific images of exactly of those impacts, and we know of the impact that such waste actually has on the environment in general. If we should turn that, and what you're proposing in terms of turning that plastic waste into components that can be mixed up and make actual durable cement that is actually sustainable in itself, the costs involved, I mean, it almost appears as though it's the perfect solution, but the actual cost of the process, the input costs, are we looking at a high input costs here, especially which will then hamper obviously on your overheads and maybe even subsequently in terms of exactly the affordability of the houses?
That's a really excellent question. It's something that we've had to really research and look at a lot. The aggregate industry, the rock industry for the construction, is such a giant industry in comparison to, in reality, this massive plastic problem. If we took all of the plastic in the world, granulated it, and turned it into our sand, it would only equal 2% of the aggregate. So what that means is that we can only really put a very small component of our product inside of each block or brick. In reality, we use about 5% by weight, 10% by volume. So also there's processing methods that keep the costs down. In as much as in Costa Rica, our plant is completely solar powered. And so when we use a small component of this, remember the waste stream comes to us for free. And in many cases, it's actually paid in terms of tipping fees. We get it at a bonus. So the affordability, the business model definitely works.
Well, it's definitely an innovation. One can say that it highlights the issues around our environment and the need to actually have solutions to plastic waste in itself. And hopefully this is one such solution, as you say, that will create employment opportunities, but most importantly, afford people decent housing. Don Thompson, they're giving us the latest insight in terms of that new innovation. Turning